Hey y'all, welcome back. So this week we're going to be cooking up some delicious holiday goodies. We're going to start off with making one of my favorites. It is my spice cake. It's very easy. You can do this in one bowl if you want to, but we're going to do this in 2 bowls today. I've already got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I've got a 9 by 9 inch pan greased, lined, and ready to go. You can also do this in 3 6-inch cake pans. So I've got some flour here. This is about 1 3/4 cup of flour. I've got some baking powder, baking soda, and some salt. Add that in there. And in here, I've got all of my spices. I've got some cinnamon, ginger, allspice, cardamom, nutmeg, and some cloves in here. So I'm just going to add all of that in there. And we're just going to give this a little mix. Make sure everything is nice and combined, mixed really, really well. Because you do not want to bite down in a chunk of baking soda. Alright, so we're just going to set that to the side and we are going to work on the wet ingredients. Alright, so in here I've got some brown sugar. I've got 1 cup of brown sugar. I've got some butter here. It's already starting to cool back down, which is fine. It will work just fine. So I'm going to add that in there. And in here I've got some whole milk and some buttermilk. You can also do whole milk and sour cream. So we're just going to add that in there. I've got some molasses in here. Whatever style of molasses is your favorite will work just fine. I'm going to add that in there. And I've got some eggs. I've got 3 eggs. Now you want to make sure all of your ingredients when you're baking are at room temperature, so that way they mix well together. And I've got some vanilla. Now when it comes to vanilla, there are no rules and I will not judge you. You add however much vanilla you want. I'm going to do about a tablespoon. And then we're just going to mix this together until it's nice and combined and those eggs and brown sugars all mixed together. Alright, so I've got my wet ingredients combined and I'm just going to add them to my dry ingredients. Okay. And I'm just going to mix this until it is just combined. You don't want to overmix your batter. Then it'll get kind of tough and dense. And we want a nice and light and fluffy cake. So just stop mixing when everything comes together. All right. So I've got my pan here, and I am just going to add this into my pan. Typically I do a 3-layer cake, but I'm just going to do it in a 9 by 9 inch cake pan. It'll turn out just fine. We're just going to have a 1-layer cake today. Okay. I'm just going to spread this around, make sure it's evenly spaced in this pan. Reaches all of the sides. Make sure all of that batter is in there. My hands are clean, by the way, I just washed them. Alright, so I've got this in the pan. I've got, like I said, I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. And I'm going to cook this for about 25 to 30 minutes. You can test this and stick a toothpick in the center of the cake. If it comes out with a few moist crumbs, you're good to go. Alright, you guys, I'm going to let this cool in the pan. It's been cooking for about 30 minutes. So I'm just going to let it cool in the pan for about 5 minutes. And then we're just going to flip it out onto this wire rack to cool completely. And then we will make our vanilla cream cheese frosting. Alright guys, so I've got my cake here. It's cool, completely cool, and I've got it sitting here on my little round cake pan. I need to get a square one. If I can find a square one, I need to get one of those. But I'm going to set that to the side. And now I'm going to make some cream cheese icing. Very simple. I've got a stick of butter, some cream cheese, and I'm just going to kind of blend this together until it's nice and creamy. And then we'll add some salt, powdered sugar, and some vanilla. All right, so I've got that all creamed together, and I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla. You can add as much or as little as you want. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons or so, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and this is just to counterbalance the powdered sugar. And you're going to add, I don't know, about 3 cups of powdered sugar, give or take. It really depends on how much butter and cream cheese you add, really. So I'm going to add a little bit of that, and I'm going to blend this up, and then when this gets all nice and creamy and smooth, we'll go ahead and frost our cake. All right, so I've got my frosting done. I added about 1.5 cups of sugar. You can certainly add 3 cups if you want to, if you're making a larger cake. I'm just going to do 1.5 cups for this size cake. So I'm just going to add all of my frosting to the top. I've got an offset spatula, but you can certainly do this with a spoon or a butter knife. And I'm just going to frost the top. I'm going to go out to the edges, kind of make some swoops. Now you can make this frosting a different color if you want. You can do any color, food coloring you like. That is completely up to you. But I like the rustic look of just the frosting in the cake, and it is absolutely delicious. You can also add some spices to this. I've done cinnamon. I have done like a mixture of cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. Just really depends on your flavor and what you're going for. But this is what the cake looks like. And I will cut me a slice of this after dinner, and I'll show you what it looks like when I cut into it. Okay, you guys, so I've gone ahead and cut me a slice of cake, and this cake is absolutely delicious. If you love spice cake, you're going to love this one. The cream cheese frosting is slightly sweet. You get more of the flavor of the cream cheese, and then it pairs so well with the cake itself. It's just a perfect balance of flavors. All right, you guys, it is the next day, and I'm going to be making 2 different kinds of cookies today. I'm going to be making my ginger maple sugar cookies and my shortbread thumbprint cookies. We're going to start out with the thumbprint cookies because I'm going to let these sit in the fridge for a few minutes to chill up. So I've got some butter here. I've got 3 sticks of butter. That is at room temperature. And we're just going to add those right into my stand mixer. Now you can do this in a bowl with a handheld mixer. It will work just fine. You can do this by hand. Whatever works out better for you. Alright, now I'm going to add in a cup of sugar, and I'm going to attach my paddle attachment to my stand mixer here. And I'm just going to mix this together until the butter and the sugar is combined. I'm not looking for whipping it for a long time. I don't want it like light and fluffy. I just want it combined. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so now I'm just going to add in about a teaspoon of salt. Is a good 2 pinches. And this is just going to help cut down on some of that sweetness. And I'm going to add just a little bit of vanilla, probably about 1 to 2 teaspoons or a tablespoon. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of dried orange peel. Now you don't have to add this, the recipe doesn't call for it, I just like to add it during the holidays. And I'm just going to give this another little mix, and then we'll add in our flour. All right, so we've got that mixed. And now we're going to go in and add in 3.5 cups of flour. But I'm going to add it in 1 cup at a time, so that way flour just doesn't go flying everywhere. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in there, and then we'll get these ready to go in the refrigerator. All right, so this comes together very well, as you can see. So I'm just going to kind of scrape some of this off the sides, kind of put it on to this little ball of dough here. And I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, and I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator, I don't know, for about 10 minutes, just long enough for the butter to kind of get a little bit cooler. But I don't want it to be too cold. I still want it to be kind of pliable, so that way we can roll them into balls. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this, put this in the refrigerator, probably 10 minutes, and then I'm going to clean up, and then we will make the rest of these cookies, get them in the oven, and all of that good stuff. All right, guys, so I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I've got my dough here, and I've got a 2 tablespoon little scoop measure here, but you can do this with just a tablespoon measure. I'm going to scoop out a little bit of this dough, and I'm going to roll this into balls, and I'm going to space these probably about 2 inches apart, just to give them enough room to kind of spread when they bake, because we are going to be pushing these down a little bit. They're not going to spread that much, but you still want a little bit of room in between them so they cook evenly. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of roll these all out and get these into balls, and then we will shape them and fill them. Okay, so I've got 2 trays made up here. I've got a little bit of dough left in the bowl for another tray of cookies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little half teaspoon, and I'm going to dip it in some flour. And I'm just going to go down in the center of these cookies and press down. You don't want to go all the way down because you want them to kind of hold their shape a little bit. And then just keep doing that until all of the cookies have little like divots in the center. And that is just to fill the cookies up with the jam or jelly, whichever that you are using. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish all of these up. Then we will get these filled with whatever kind of jam or jelly that you like. Now, if you don't want to do jam or jelly, you can just put these in the oven and bake them and make shortbread cookies. They're very delicious as is. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. Then we'll get these filled up. All right, you guys. So I've got these all indented. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill these up with some sort of jam. Around the holidays, I like to do something a little bit more festive. So I like to use lingonberry. Sometimes I'll do blackberry, blueberry. It just depends on what you're going for. Use whatever jam or jelly is your favorite. They will work just fine. So you're going to take a half of a teaspoon, and you're going to fill these up with just a half of a teaspoon of your jam or jelly. And then we will get these ready to go in the oven, and these will bake up so beautifully. They will be so delicious. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish filling these up, and then we will put these in the oven at 325 degrees for just a little bit. Just really depends on your oven. I'm going to do somewhere between 12 to 15 minutes maybe, because my oven cooks a little hot. So I'm just going to have to keep an eye on them. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up and get these in the oven, and then I'll show you what they look like when they come out of the oven. Alright, these baked about 18 minutes. The larger one took about 20 minutes, but these are done. I'm going to let them sit here and cool for about 5 minutes in the pan, and then I'm going to transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. Now I'm just going to get everything set up to make the second batch of cookies. Alright, you guys, next up we're making my ginger maple sugar cookies. These are so good. They're very easy to make. You can do this in one bowl like any other kind of cookie, but I'm going to do these in the stand mixer. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up my dry ingredients first. So I've got some flour here. In here I've got some baking soda, cream of tartar, I've got some ginger and some salt. So I'm just going to go ahead and add all of that in here. And I'm just going to mix this up really, really well. So that way that baking soda and cream of tartar is really well mixed in here. So that way the cookies don't have any brown spots when they bake. I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to grab my stand mixer, and then we will mix the butter and sugar together. Alright, so I've got a stick of butter here. It's at room temperature. And I'm just going to add that right in there. I've also got a half of a cup of shortening. This is just regular shortening. We're going to add that right in there. And I've got some brown sugar. I'm going to add that. And some regular sugar. Add that right in there. Now I'm just going to attach the paddle attachment, and I'm going to cream these together just until they're light and fluffy. Alright, so this has been mixing for just about a minute. I've got some maple syrup here. I'm going to go ahead and add that in there. It's about 1/4 cup. I'm going to add a splash of vanilla, however much you want. I've got 1 egg and 1 egg yolk. It's just for a little bit of extra richness. So I'm going to add that in there. And I'm going to blend this until everything is well combined. It should take about a minute or two. Alright, this is nice and combined. I'm going to go ahead and add in my flour and spice mixture. Now this isn't like a cake. You don't have to add it in different batches, but I'm just going to add it all in there, and I'm going to start on the lowest setting so flour doesn't spray everywhere. And then we're just going to mix these until the flour and the butter mixture are nice and combined. Alright, so I've got my dough here. Now this is a little bit of a softer dough. You're not going to shape these into balls. You can if you want to, but it's going to be a little bit difficult. So I'm just going to use about a 2 tablespoon scoop. And I'm just going to scoop these right out onto the parchment paper. I'm using the same pans that I used for the thumbprint cookies. It's fine. And I'm just going to put these on the pan. Space them out just a tiny bit, about 1.5 inch space, 2 inch space. And then I'm just going to go ahead and finish all of these up. And we'll get these in the oven. Alright, so I've got all of the cookies out here on the sheet trays. I'm going to put these in the oven at 325 degrees. And I'm going to cook these around 10 to 14 minutes. It just depends on your oven. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and when they get nice and lightly golden around the edges, they are done. You don't want these crispy. You kind of want them in the middle, between soft and crispy. So I'm going to go ahead and get these in the oven. Alright, here are these cookies, and I've just let them sit in the pan for just a couple of minutes. And now I'm just going to transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. Now these cookies are a little bit on the flatter side. They're not going to have too much rise to them, which makes for a really good ice cream sandwich. And these are still a little bit warm. but they are kind of crisp on the outside, but nice and soft in the center. Like I said, they are a more of a thin cookie, which makes for the perfect ice cream sandwich, and these are so delicious. Alright, I want to show you the thumbprint cookies. Now these are a little bit on the softer, crisper side. The outside is a little crisp, but the center is nice and soft, and they are delicious. So here is what the center of these cookies look like, and these are so good. Like I said, you can use any kind of a jam or jelly that you like. Around the holidays, I like to use something like more of a tart flavor to contrast the sweet cookie. But you can do blackberry jam, blueberry, you can do marmalade, you can do strawberry is really good. Yeah, so here's these cookies. And that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and hit that thumbs up button and leave me a comment. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.